Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. As you probably know, my name is Ayman Haidar. I pretty much do most of the coding for medical notes. I normally don't do those meetings or those webinars, but I thought this is really too important and probably might be easier to come from a provider to do a demo. So I thought I'll do it myself. So I did not prepare actually like a full slide show presentation. It's just like few slides, just so I keep myself on note actually. So if we're talking about AI, of course, everybody is talking about AI right now. This is the buzzword, just like everything else, every few years we get a new buzzword. But this one actually, I think it's really will make huge changes in our lives. This is probably as big or as important as, like, let's say, the invention of the transistor or the internet. AI is going to be here probably to make huge changes in our lives, not just in healthcare, obviously, in everyday life. And I know you probably feel the effects of it. And I really think this is just the start of things. I've been, of course, following this for the last few years, and there's huge changes have happened over the last few years. And then I know a lot of you might be using it regularly and, or somewhat get affected by it. In terms of healthcare, it seems like AI has really made huge advancements over the last maybe couple of years, but definitely over the last year. And that's related mainly to LLMs, which is what they call large language model. LLMs are like the most important part actually for healthcare, but of course it works for other things too. But because of LLMs have gone much better and got much better over the last year or so, it allowed people to integrate it with different sections of the economy or different things that are done on a daily basis, and definitely healthcare. And it's moving in a very, very fast way right now. If you follow this, or even I'm sure you keep hearing about it a lot on the news and from different outlets, there's a huge changes. I mean, there are huge changes happening all the time, and they're getting better. So that, answers the question, why now? Although I still think this is almost the infancy for for LLMs, and how they affect things, especially in healthcare. I'm not going to say too much about probably LLMs. I mean, they sound complicated, but actually, believe it or not, it's not super complicated. Think about it as like a piece of software sitting on a server somewhere. That software, what it does, it trains itself on like huge chunks, if not everything that's pretty much out there. It started with text only, where it would read everything that's available between books, journals, the internet, everything they can get their hands on. It trained itself on it. And then because of that training, of course, using the concept of AI, then it was able to know things. Knowing things, that means that you can start asking questions without having actually without having an answer that's like coded in that LLM. It can actually answer you based on the knowledge that it got from that training. And this is really, if you follow AI in general, I mean, LLMs have been something in the work probably for the last several years. I mean, the concept is older, of course, but the ability to be able to train this software and different text and access to different text made it more powerful, and it's getting better every single day. And it's moving, like I said, in a very fast way. I don't know if you heard of ChatGPT, 4.1 was just released in April this year, and now they're talking about 5.0, which is probably going to come out next week or in 2 weeks. and they are promising, huge changes too. Now, LLMs are not about text, although of course text is one of the most important thing, but they're talking about also images, recognition of audio and video, transcription, translation of different languages. There's a lot of things can be done using those LLMs. Of course, the most common ones, of course, probably all of you have heard of ChatGPT by OpenAI, Gemini, probably the two most common ones out there. But there are some different ones too, like Grok, by Tesla right now is causing a lot of waves. There's some like Claude, which is, or like Copilot. Those are more like for coding, but they still can do a lot of stuff. And we will see probably more of those, or definitely more advancement in these LLMs as well. Now, well, let me give you a little bit of background. Actually, initially, I was really skeptical about maybe integrating the EMR with AI. For last, maybe a year or two, I've been thinking about it, but I kept thinking, I doubt, that's gonna save us time or maybe create something that's better than what we could do, or improve, let's say, our coding and stuff. Then a few months ago, maybe I started looking into it a little bit more seriously, and I started, on the website, on, let's say, ChatGPT website, and started feeding it some data. And to be honest with you, I was shocked. I was shocked by the output that it came back. Way better than I thought in terms of like the chart itself, documentation itself that is coming out of it. Of course, it is based on what you give it, but the quality of the document that's coming out is really mind-boggling, let's put it this way. So when I started working on this, of course, you cannot just copy paste stuff and put it in ChatGPT or Gemini and then copy it back in the chart. You want something a little bit easier to deal with. So I started working on this, maybe a couple of months ago, a little bit more actually than that, but at least the infrastructure was being prepared at that point. With the idea that we will connect to at least one or two of those LLMs and, in the background, be able to interact with them using APIs, of course. Using APIs that will allow us to, send data and receive it and integrate it with the EMR. So for now, what I've done is two things, or at least concentrated on two things. And still, it's work in progress, but I would say maybe 90% is done right now. The first thing is to create the document, which is, I know everybody's getting bombarded by different companies that are trying to do the same thing, which is scribing. And then the second thing is like billing, to try to get coding, ICD-10s and CPT codes from the notes. But there's definitely more to come, probably. I'm going to continue to work on this and see what we can do using AI. What can that benefit? But I also look forward to everybody's feedback and maybe requests, on what can be done or should be done. I really look forward to that because that's the best way to make something useful. Excuse me. So, something like, data extraction from, let's say, images that we scan, that's definitely on my mind. Maybe we can, let's say, send something that was faxed from the hospital, could be 50 pages of different things, maybe feed it to ChatGPT in the background and get a summary of, the hospital visit, let's say. I don't know how feasible or how useful that is yet, but I think it's definitely one of the things I'm thinking about right now. Or maybe feed it, let's say last 2 years of the patient visits and ask it to give me a summary of what did we do for the patient last 2 years or so, what happened with the medications, what changed and stuff. I think that could be very useful and very helpful. And then you can think of other things too, like the clinical decision support. Let's say we can probably feed it, let's say for an internist like me, when was last time I did his colonoscopy, the flu shot, I checked his lipid profile, I checked his PSA, let's say a patient or something. And then it'll give me some recommendation. Okay, well, recommendation might be, okay, you need to repeat the colonoscopy and so on, so and PSA and so on. So there's a lot of things that can be done. Like I said, this is still early, and I really think there will be more things that I'm doing actually in the EMR. Of course, what's going to be a lot of testing and see what would be useful and not useful. Um, Let me say a few words about the costs, because this might be confusing. Even if you look it up actually online, it might be a little confusing, but let me try to see if I can summarize it a little bit. The way we're going to do it ourselves actually is we probably going to charge something. We didn't finish this, on like how much or how we're going to do it, but most likely it's going to be like a small fee that's added to the quarterly fee, probably based on the size of the office and how many providers or so. But also there will be a cost associated with that using OpenAI itself. So every office or every server at least will create an account with OpenAI, which is right now the one that we're going with. Although I wrote something to interact with Gemini, but I've noticed that ChatGPT, which is OpenAI, is actually giving us better results. So we're going to go with that at least to start with. So everybody will have an account with OpenAI. We need to obtain something called an API key, plug it in our system so we can talk back and forth. Now, the way OpenAI charges is really different and unique than anything that we probably paid for in the past. But this is like you pay as you go. So that means the more you use the system, the more it's going to cost you. And the way they do that is by something called tokens. So they charge like so much for some amount of tokens. Let's say and that differs between which model we use when we connect to ChatGPT. But let's do an average. They say, okay, well, we're going to charge $2 for every million tokens that we send to them. And they're going to charge $10 for every million token they generate. Now, what's a token? Token, the easiest way to understand a token is like by words. So if you have 1,000, or if you have like 1,000 tokens, it represents about 750 words. And the number they charge per token is very small, but of course it adds up over time. But in general, from my testing so far, I've been testing this for the last 2 months, doing dictations and, generating charts and stuff. I've been only charged like $2-3. So it's very reasonable. I really think, I'm not sure exactly what's going to come up with. I'll have more information later, but it's going to come down to about $20 to $30 every month per provider for a typical office. Let's say somebody sees about 30 patients a day. It could be more, of course, if you use it more. It could be less. But those numbers, it's very hard for me to predict right now because nobody can actually. If you look on the internet, the cost is very confusing because no other things that we pay for are paid this way. But it's a very interesting way. In general, I think it's really affordable, and definitely will add more to what we are doing in the office and make our lives a little bit easier. Okay, so maybe we can do a quick demo. Yeah, actually, let me start with the demo thing and let's see. And then I'll probably talk around the demo a little bit just because, some things might come out from the demo. So the idea, well, let me start actually. I just put like a dummy patient here, and then I'm going to click on, let me delete anything in Super Build 2 for now. So this is the regular chart that everybody gets right now, but there's a new thing, it's called Dictate here on the top. And this is what takes us to this AI thing. So if I click on it, it's going to look similar to some degree, but then the tab is different. And the tab is really what controls everything that we do here. So if we start from the left, there are some options. Those options are going to, except for the very first one, each of those options are customizable for every office. So we might, add if you have a particular need in your office, and you need to have like different options here that will affect the prompt that we send to ChatGPT. It will show up for you here. And then of course we will work with you to see what, different options that you would like. The very first option, so far this is standard, although to make it, checked by default or not is optional. We can turn that off or on. In my office, I turn it on because I'll show you what it does and stuff. And then on the right side, this is how you start recording, stop recording, and then how you generate the note. And then I'll go through that. This bottom thing here, it's, if you want to play back your recording, whatever you recorded. So the idea, how we're going to do this is you're still going to pick a template because that's going to make, that's going to make the information that goes to ChatGPT has more context. The template will have the patient history, the medications, allergies, all that stuff. And then you add to it by whatever you dictate. We'll talk about listening in the room in a bit. But you pick the template, you dictate, and you generate the note. Those are the 3 steps. Now, when you dictate, something is saved on the server, of course. But when you click on generate note, then that dictation will be sent first to ChatGPT to be transcribed to text. Then when that comes back, that text is used in addition to the template that you picked. And both of those will go to ChatGPT to create the actual note. We'll do an example. So let's say I have a patient, we'll start with a simple one. Let's say I have a patient with bronchitis. I can go ahead and look for bronchitis. These are my templates, so there's nothing different about it. But here, I have my template, that's what I use in my office, especially in urgent care. But here it has the medications, the patient's medication, past medical history, the standard exam with the vitals and stuff. So it took that stuff and put it in a template. So we're going to use this and whatever we dictate. So right now, as you can see, after I pick the template, the start recording is highlighted. So I'm going to start recording. And you'll notice what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say things as fast as I want. And I don't have to use periods. I don't have to use anything. The idea is it's going to try to take that and plug it in the correct spot. So let me start doing that. Patient comes in today for a cough that has been going on for about a week, and he has some yellow phlegm associated with that. And actually, that's she. She noticed some wheezing as well, off and on, and she had some fever, but she did not measure her temperature. She did not have any sore throat associated with that either. When I examined the patient, there was some congestion in the right lower lobe. Minimal wheezing was noted as well. I will get the patient on some antibiotics. She is to use her inhaler and call if she needs refills. I also will get her on a short course of steroids to help with her wheezing. She is to come back in 2 to 3 days for a follow-up visit, and she is to go to the emergency room if she starts having more shortness of breath. So as you see, I mean, I just dictated like, 1 minute or so of things that are pertinent. Now, when I generate the note, and I click on that, that's when it sends the transcription. I mean, something to be transcribed. And then it's going to take the template and send the transcription together and create the note for us. Let's hope that will work. Actually, I've been using this for last 2-3 weeks, for every patient that I see. So this is the note that came back. So if you notice here, it said the patient is a female who presents with cough that has been going on for approximately 1 week. She reports yellow phlegm production associated with the cough. Patient also notes intermittent wheezing and fever. Although she did not measure her temperature, she denies having sore throat, no report of shortness of breath. As you notice, of course, AI did a way better job than I did, when I dictated it. And it, put things together. Because I put this on the top here, add like 8 system review of systems, it did this and it picked those, including, which is the best thing, is like if you look in the respiratory, it says reports intermittent wheezing, denies shortness of breath. So it took that from what I said and plugged it in correctly in the right area. If I said something about nausea and stuff, would have probably added it in the GI area. It reordered medications that we gave it, allergies, past medical history, social. I mean, those are all from the template. And then even put the vitals. Sometimes it'll, put them in its own lines. I'll tell you more about why sometimes it's not always the same results. But this is the exam, the exam is mostly from the template, but here in the chest, because I talked about the exam, it says congestion noted in right lower lobe, minimal wheezing was noted. And then assessment acute bronchitis. The plan, initiate antibiotics for infections, start a short course of steroids for wheezing, and consider inhaler use as needed. Rest and use, part of it was taken from the template, parts of it are from what I said. And then return for follow-up in 2 to 3 days, or go to emergency room if experiencing shortness of breath. I think this looks better than what I could have generated myself without too much typing and stuff. And we'll do more examples in a second. But now, if I save this, it's going to give me also the ICD-10 code for acute bronchitis, and it's going to give me the level of visit. Now, the level of visit, of course, is based on the documentation. And if I want to know more about it, I can click on this get billing orders, which is, codes. And it gives me an explanation here. CPT code 99213, established patient, justification for level 3 visit. This is all generated by, of course, ChatGPT. I don't know if you can see that. Patient, presented with symptoms, typical of acute bronchitis and cough, wheezing, fever. Evaluation included history taking. So it'll give you the justification why it suggested that code for us. For the most part, it has been really good, getting those CPT codes. Are they 100% accurate? No. So definitely keep an eye on it. If you think the code was not justifiable or so, and you want to change it, of course, please do so, and I think it's going to get better with time even. We may need to do some tweaks, to the prompt that I generate, but overall, I rarely had to change it for my own patients that I've been seeing. And it's been really good about like upcoding things that probably I would have not upcoded myself. Let's say from 99213 to 214, because it thought there's more documentation that I thought there was. So I think I did a good job, with that note. But let's do something a little bit more, complicated, because this is a simple thing. We could have done the template and we would have been done with it. Let's do the same patient, let's say, and let's create a new chart. And let's say, okay, I'm gonna, this is a little bit more typical internal medicine patient. I'm gonna talk about diabetes, blood pressure, maybe cholesterol and stuff like that. So I'll pick like a blank template. The blank template only has like, the history information and its general exam here. And then everything is empty here. But let's see what will give us. So patient comes in today for a follow-up visit on her diabetes. She stated that her blood sugar readings have been better overall, except sometimes when in the morning when she checks it, it might be a little bit on the higher side in 100s. She has been using her medications without a problem, but continues to have those readings. Also, she mentioned that she does notice that her blood pressure seems to be on the high side on occasions, but she denies any chest pain or dizziness or headaches associated with that. Also, she has been following a good low-fat diet, and her latest blood work showed that her LDL continues to be elevated in the 150s in spite of her diet. In her exam, let's say her heart exam showed like a systolic murmur, maybe 2 to 3/6 in the aortic area. In the plan, I will add another medication to help control her blood sugar. We will recheck her A1C in 3 months, and I will also add another blood pressure medication to help control the blood pressure since her readings seem to be on the high side. Her cholesterol also seemed to be elevated, so I'm going to start her on Lipitor 10 milligrams every day. I will recheck her blood work in 1 month, which will include her liver enzymes, CPK, and lipid profile. She is to come back in 1 month for a follow-up visit or earlier if she starts experiencing any side effects. So as you can tell, I was like all over the place, I'm trying to just say at least what happened during the visit or so. So let's see what it will give us. Because you guys can do better dictations than I do, but I'd like to, show you at least, even if you're not the most accurate or so, it still does a decent job. So let's say here, patient presents for a follow-up regarding her diabetes management. She reports improved blood sugar readings although some morning readings are elevated in the 100s. She adheres to her medication regimen without issues. She notices occasional high blood pressure readings, but denies experiencing any chest pain, dizziness, headaches, despite maintaining low-fat diet. Her LDL cholesterol remains elevated in the 150s. As you see, this is kind of nicely put together in different sentences and stuff. I didn't do much with the exam, but look what it did to the assessment. I mean, I didn't say even anything about it, but it deduced that there is type 2 diabetes mellitus with suboptimal blood sugar control. Hypertension with occasional high readings, hyperlipidemia with elevated LDL cholesterol in spite of dietary management. In the plan, start new medication to better control blood sugar, recheck A1C in 3 months, add antihypertensive medication to manage blood pressure, start Lipitor 10 milligram daily for elevated LDL, follow up blood work in 1 month, including liver enzyme, CPK, and lipids, return for a follow-up visit in 1 month or sooner if experiencing any side effects. I think it did a pretty good job, very comprehensive for maybe what I spent like 1 or maybe 2 minutes of dictation. So let's actually, before I do that, let me make sure I delete because we're doing the same patient. Let's see what kind of codes it's going to give us. Okay, so it got the ICD-10 codes, type 2 diabetes, blood pressure, hyperlipidemia, and give us a 214. Obviously, because we dealt with a lot more things here. Okay, so now, as you see, I mean, again, I don't want everybody to think that, it's going to get everything right. It does. I mean, if you send the same actually information, believe it or not, if you send the same information, exact same information twice, you may get slightly different answers each time, because think of it, LLMs are like almost like a thinking software. So just like human beings, you may have slightly different answer here and there. AI or LLMs do that. Sometimes they have some issues with something called hallucinations, where it might add some more things that it thought it should be there. That's being decreased, it looks like, especially with the new ChatGPT 5. It should be less and less of that. And I don't think that's been an issue in my testing, at least. But I mean, that's something always, I mean, until you get comfortable with it and, keep an eye on what it's saying and what it's doing. Again, in my experience, it has been doing a great thing. Now, there's a very important question, and I actually meant to talk about it earlier, but now I wanted to understand because what we could do, let's say another chart. I know a lot of companies right now that are trying to sell the idea that you can have the EMR or the recording in the room with you to listen to the patient visit. And then it will create a chart for you. And this thing does too. So if you go in with your iPad or even with your iPhone, and when you start talking to the patient and you click on start recording, and then when you're done, do stop recording, it will actually generate a note for you. But in my opinion, I don't think this is the optimal way to do it for a few reasons. And this happened because I've been testing it. Number one, I think in Michigan, you have to ask permission every time to record the patient. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's the case. Which is probably not a big deal. Number two, I've noticed, like, if we start to deviate a little bit from the medical issues, let's say we start talking about patient daughter, she got married and she had a new baby and stuff. Sometimes it will confuse things and insert like some data or some like words or sentences are really not related to the visit, which means that you might have to be super careful by looking at the whole note, take out anything that's not pertinent there. And the third thing, which is almost more important to me, is like when I'm talking to the patient, although it grabs all that information and stuff, but it does not grab the exam. So in the exam, I have to either put it, by hand or maybe say it out loud, and it feel kind of weird, really. Talking to the patient, I'm going to say, okay, well, your stomach, was soft, it was not tender, and no organomegaly is noted, or your chest sound clear, I don't hear any wheezing. I mean, sometimes we say that, but in general, we don't. So if you want the exam to be documented, you're going to have to do it by hand, later, or say it out loud. That's why I don't recommend this. Maybe sometimes or some certain situations, this could be possible. I know some specialties. I see Jamie there, with the psychotherapy or so, that can be helpful because you actually are not doing like a physical exam on the patient or so. So that could be helpful in that situation. But in general, I think for most other specialties, I would recommend to do more like a quick dictation with the pertinent stuff. It'll give you a little bit more accurate things that can be more trustworthy without like going too deep in terms of watching what it created and stuff. Oh, one more thing too, although that's probably not a big deal because cost is another issue. Because if you record, let's say you record like half an hour with a patient or so. When you send that half an hour to ChatGPT to be transcribed, of course, that's going to cost a lot more than 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Uh, it's not a lot, actually, believe it or not. I was looking into it yesterday, and they said almost on average, dictation or transcription costs about 36 cents every hour, which is really not that bad at all. But of course, it will add up, if you have, hundreds of patients every, day or every week, it will add up. I would say, once you start using this, if you want to try the recording in the room, go for it. See what kind of notes it'll generate for you. If you're happy with it, absolutely stick with it. If not, I would do probably more like dictation, like I do in my office. Like I said, I've tried both, and I still do both because I want to test it more and more. Sometimes I start with listening in the exam room, but then I see the note generated, I change my mind, and I end up dictating like what I feel about that visit. I think that let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, there's not much probably in terms of demo. I mean, there's more. Of course, more things that you can talk about when you're recording something. But okay, no, the two things before I move to some questions, if there are any. Oh, by the way, if you have any questions, please send them in the chat. Maybe I'll look at them quickly and then try to answer those. I know we have everybody muted just because we have a bunch of people and it's hard to have everybody talk at the same time. So you get to hear my lovely voice by myself only. So one thing, I was talking to Asa yesterday, and I really think what we're gonna do is maybe enable this for everybody for maybe a month or two, just so you guys can all try it. I mean, you don't have to pay us or anything yet. You will still have to make an account with OpenAI, and then you try it and see if that something fits your practice. Then you can use it regularly. If not, we can just disable it and you don't have to worry about it. But I really think this would be a good way, because no matter how many demos I do for you, it's not going to be the same as you yourself doing it. I really think you will be impressed. Not because I did it, actually. Most of the work is done by ChatGPT, by the way. What we've done here is really the back end of stuff, sending, receiving, saving it in a database, to be able to retrieve it, working with the audio files and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that's being done with the medical notes, but the majority of things, or the meat of it, is done by ChatGPT. Now, I mentioned briefly that we will consider other models. Like I said, I wrote the code for Gemini, and it does pretty good job, I think. And it might be an option at some point, but for now, we're probably going to standardize on ChatGPT, which is OpenAI. But I'll keep looking into Gemini to see if would be a valid option or not. Okay, now let me see if there's any questions. Okay, let's start with the top. Is there anywhere that we need to legally document in the note that note was created in combination with AI? As far as I know, I don't think so, because you're really not just creating it with AI only. I mean, you're using your template and you're dictating. So as far as I know, no, I don't think so. The only thing, like I said, I'm not sure of, and I believe it's the case, is like if you are recording anybody in Michigan, at least in Michigan, probably that's the same in other states too, you might need their own permission. But again, I'm not 100% sure yet. That's cool. Thank you, Amy. Uh, can this be used with other programs who are more attuned to medicine? I don't know what you mean, but if you mean like other services, let's say like Sully AI or Doximity, I know a lot of people are talking about Doximity. Well, yeah, of course you can use it. I mean, you don't need to use this, AI in EMR, but I would be shocked of the reason for it because you're getting the same. I mean, Doximity, obviously, or Sully AI, or Scriper, or any of those programs, none of them do anything different than what we're doing right now, which is pretty much submitting stuff to ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or any of those and receiving the information. Except here, you're actually sending more context. You're sending the patient list of medication, past medical history and stuff, because sometimes they could be pertinent to the note that you're creating. But if you decide to use something else, absolutely go for it. You can copy and paste, from other sources if you decide to use it, and you don't need to. I mean, we'll of course disable this after the trial period. You don't have to. Is there a timeline to do the note other than patient has been seen? No, not really. I mean, just like when you do your regular notes, you can do it if you don't have time today to do it tomorrow, a week from now. It's up to you. It's really similar to what we do otherwise. You know, if you look at the screen, it's similar to how we create other documentation by hand or using the templates, except now you would just add the dictation as one thing. David, can you do a psychotherapy demo? I mean, I would love to, but honestly, I'm not qualified to be a psychotherapist. I mean, I would love to do that, but maybe you would love to have you, David or Jamie, we can do one together privately. You can dictate something, and we'll see what it comes out. Maybe we'll use one of your templates too, because I mean, that will be I'm sure it's going to do a pretty good job with it too. But I need your help actually, using the template and the actual dictation because I don't know what to dictate myself. I'm only an internist, I don't know that many things. Okay, Jamie, can you do combo approach? For example, set it to listen during the visit and then dictate additional information. That's a very good question, Jamie. Actually, I was just thinking about it this morning. That right now, the way I have it is like if you start dictating, it will overwrite whatever the previous audio. So absolutely, I think I'm going to do that where you can, let's say have it listen and then maybe do a second audio where you add more information to the previous visit. But absolutely, I was just thinking about it this morning.
That would be great. Thank you, because that allows you to sort of fill in the gaps that don't naturally get covered in the exam.
Absolutely, especially about the exam, that's absolutely the case. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Dave, what are the HIPAA considerations related to all this? A transcription or recording or visit? Is this all input data stored in the cloud, the various entities, and what are the confidentiality considerations? Well, first of all, two things. We asked, let's say OpenAI, we asked them about this. They definitely don't keep the audio or the text that's generated. Okay. So that gets deleted. There is like a time limit when they delete it. And I think that's like to check for abuse and things like that. So they delete that. They don't keep any of that information, which is good. But that's not enough for me. What I do is when I dictate, I try to make sure there's no identifying information. I don't even bring the patient name. I'll just say patient is here for so and so. I don't even say the patient name. And the last thing is ASA is working with the OpenAI right now actually about signing an agreement, a BAA agreement, which will cover us completely. We'll have every office actually sign an agreement with the OpenAI because this way we'll be protected. I mean, they are and we are too, or at least we won't be in HIPAA violation. But even without that, I think we are HIPAA compliant here. But I'm a little bit paranoid about this, so I usually don't bring the patient name. Obviously, there's no addresses being sent, there's no phone number, none of that stuff. So when you dictate, make sure you don't include it. Okay, Dr. Luna, regarding HIPAA issues and AI processing, once your node's generated, does any HIPAA information stay with ChatGPT? I just answered that, no. That's from what they told us. There's nothing that stays there, including the audio. The audio, I think, gets deleted. I mean, I really have to go back and check, but something within 30 minutes. And the transcription, actually, once you submit the template and the transcription, once they process it, I don't think they keep it even. So you can edit or change it in all areas. Yes, I mean, of course, after the note comes back, you can do whatever you want to do, this text file. Exactly. Other AI programs and not ChatGPT. I think I must have been talking about something. Dr. Haber mentioned exactly other AI programs and not ChatGPT. Oh, okay. So for now, like I said, I've written the API interface with Gemini. So we will be trying. I mean, I tried it initially for both the same exact, dictation, same exact template, and so far I've noticed ChatGPT is better. But yeah, we will continue to try Gemini. We might even look into Grok, although nobody's talking about Grok being in healthcare too much, but it could be, you never know. So we will continue to do that. And then if you, like I said, if you decide to try different things, absolutely go for it. But you cannot try it from inside the EMR unless I write the interface, of course. You cannot submit anything until we have like the full backend, which is not super easy to do for every one of them that's out there. But if something is better, definitely I'll be more than happy to create it. So this is available to us now when we have account with OpenAI. I think what we're gonna do is probably, I was talking to Isa. I think we're gonna push an update this week. Let's put it this way. And if somebody is brave enough to try, we'll turn it on for you. I mean, I don't want too many people because I don't want to have like too many bugs I have to work on at the same time. I would prefer if one or two offices maybe try it this week, part of next week, and then have everybody after that try it, because it'll take some time. When we set you up with OpenAI, it's going to take us some time to do that. Asa will be busy because we need to get that account in, get your credit card information, create an API key. We have to plug it in, change some of your settings in the EMR. So it takes us a little bit of time. But absolutely, I mean, I'd like to have at least a couple of offices, start using it as soon as like this week and probably part of next week. And then everybody else will get the same code. We'll just have to turn it on one by one. But absolutely, I would love to get some feedback. I know there's few issues right now that I need to work on, but for the majority of things, it seems to be working just fine. There are some things that I need to still fix and add more things to. Do we need free ChatGPT account? Nita, no, we need not the regular ChatGPT that you get on your phone or the website. There is one that we have to help you out to create because this is how we communicate back and forth with them, is by creating an API key. The API key, obviously, you don't see it when you do interactions with ChatGPT. So what they do is, like I said, they'll take your credit card information still, and they will charge you, but they'll charge you per use. So there's not like the $20 every month that you pay for the regular ChatGPT. But let's say if you use it, 10 times a day, you might pay 30 cents or so. And you can put a cap even on like how much you want to spend every month. Probably that's not a bad idea, especially to start with, just so you're not getting like hundreds of dollars, which I really don't think it will. Since I started testing with ChatGPT, so far I spent like $3.50 or so. And maybe at least 200 charts, probably more than that. Okay, I think this is all the questions. Unless you have any more, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. I really can't wait until, every now and I get excited about many things sometimes, but every now and then I get something that I get way more excited about. And this is definitely one of them. I'm really excited about it. I really think it's going to add a lot of value to what we're doing and make things much faster. And more importantly, much more accurate, in terms of like what we are saying and how that's interpreted. And then it's going to make things much more defendable. Let's say if you get an audit, this is actually my billers were talking about this. Now we have even ChatGPT helping us, saying, okay, how did you justify this 99214? And it spells it out for you. So it's really, I think it's going to help us out a lot. Okay, thank you all. Thank you, everybody. And I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I am. Like I said, Asa will be in touch with everybody. Whoever wants to be the first couple of guinea pigs, would love to put it out there for you. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.